Tracy and Jennifer ready. Yep. Terry ready?
Great.
Ready, Sue?
Yep.
Okay.
Did you push the record button?
Yep, it's already recording.
Oh, fabulous.
Look at that. All right, I'd like to call the March 5th, 2024 Albany County Commissioners meeting to order. Commissioner Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Rivera.
Here.
Commissioner Gosar also here. If you would stand and join me for the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, that moves us to item 3, which is a public hearing. I'd like to open up the Reed Zoning District Amendment Application ZDA-06-23. We'll go first to David, and then we will go from there. Thanks, David.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the Reed Zoning District Amendment has been published for a public hearing, which is today, and it's also on your agenda for action. I did receive an email from Mr. Thomas Zott, who is representing Tiffany Reed on this application, requesting that this application be tabled. That will be a decision that you have to make. We do have to have the public hearing because it has been published, and this is the time to have that public hearing. So you can listen to the public hearing, but then you can make the decision to table the application without doing anything else once you get to that point, if you would like. So, and we would be okay with that. They're exploring different avenues with this application. I think you may have received an email from Mr. Zott that explained that. So, yeah, so that's all I have to say. But
David, if it were to be tabled, would the public hearing, would we have to renotice a public hearing if it was to be before the commission again and then do public hearing again?
Technically, no. If you have your public hearing today, you would not need to. However, if you would like to, we'd be happy to republish that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, since we have the public hearing noticed, I take any comments in the room here for or against the Reed Zoning District Amendment Application ZDA-06-23. And if you're going to make a public comment here, you just give us your name. And if you're not from Albany County, if you'd let us know where you're from, that would be great. If we don't hear from you, we'll just suspect you're from Albany County. All right, how about online? Oh, sure, please come on up. Good morning. How are you?
Well, I'm here. I'm Tom Buston, and I live out on Osprey Road in the county. I am the current president of the 9 Mile Water and Sewer District. I did speak at Mr. Geert's, I hope I pronounced that right, hearing. The 9 Mile Water District brings to light back in 2011, the property in question, the owner was told to abate because she was in violation of the zoning at that time. Nothing has been done, and she has continued to go forward and disregard the rules regarding that. The 9 Mile Water District at that time, or prior to that, told her that she could not have more than one resident per water tap, and she was shut off by the water district at that time. I'm also a member of the Alcohol Rod and Gun Club, and unfortunately, the president of that club is not here today, or he's had another appointment, but I would like to indicate that at the last meeting, he did indicate that they were opposed to it. There is a possibility that because she does not have adequate water supplies, she does not have adequate sewage, that there could be possible pollution into 9 Mile Lake, which would affect 8 Mile Lake, 7 Mile Lake, and the Laramie River right on down the line. So again, both these organizations are opposed to the change in zoning. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Yes, sir. Please go on, please.
Mr. Chairman, good morning. My name is Thomas Schott. I am a lawyer representing Tiffany Reed. My client's also present. I don't want to take more of your time than necessary. I did send an email articulating our request to have the commissioners table consideration of Ms. Reed's zoning amendment application pending our ability to explore the possibility of pursuing a conditional use permit instead. Also to give us the opportunity, which also would be appropriate in connection with that, but just to give us the opportunity to better address what was a concern that was mentioned at the previous meeting, at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, was mentioned here again this morning and in the staff report, which is potential impacts to the lake. That's certainly something that we want to be sensitive to. My goal, Mr. Chairman and commissioners, in representing and assisting Tiffany Reed, our objective is for her to be able to operate lawfully and safely. And I understand that there is a long history here, and at least from my perspective as stepping in to assist her last year, it's easy for me to say as water under the bridge. I understand that for people who have been living in the area, that may be easier said than to accept, but that's my goal. Can't change anything that happened before. The objective now is for her to operate safely and within the law. I understand it's really a multi-step process. There's the zoning, there's potentially a subdivision request, there are issues about wastewater, there are issues about electrical. And each of those would need to be addressed with the appropriate agency to prevent any of these bad outcomes from occurring. I mean, certainly no one wants for the lake to be polluted, for the Laramie River to be polluted, but there would be mechanisms in place at each step in the process to prevent that from occurring. It would just need, obviously, again, as I said, it's a multi-step process. So the zoning amendment application was submitted consistent with what the planning department recommended. The position of the planning department was that a conditional use permit is not available under the zoning resolution, as I explained. So we pursued the zoning amendment application instead. In reviewing the Planning and Zoning Commission's report this morning, and what I recollected from before as well, it was repeatedly pointed out that in considering this amendment application, that you as commissioners, or that it needed to be considered that any commercial use available in the land use table could potentially be employed if the zoning were changed. And certainly there's force to that observation. Our application focused on the fact that from our perspective, Ms. Reed's proposed mobile home park, again, if it were operated lawfully, safely, in accordance with all applicable requirements, would be consistent with the character of the area. But it's undeniable that if a future commercial use, future commercial use might be different. So that's why our primary desire is to explore whether a conditional use permit is available. Because if it were, it should alleviate that concern. Now that's a question of interpretation of the regulation, which ultimately may end up right back before you. But stepping back from what the regulation allows, and just as a matter of common sense and just practicality, if a conditional use permit were available, it would allow her to operate without the possibility then of it being put to other commercial uses in the future. So again, from our perspective, that seems like a more advantageous option if it's available. And we'd like to pursue it, and we'd like to find out if that is available, because that at least would take that potential disadvantage of rezoning off the table. So that's our primary goal, but we also would like to the extent we can, have the strongest application possible, which would include potentially including additional information that would hopefully assuage concerns that her operation would pollute the lake or infringe on the use of the lake, the use and enjoyment of the lake. And so I've already probably spoken longer than I should have. Happy to answer any questions if you have them. But that's our objective, to operate lawfully, safely, to follow an orderly process. And I know that there are many steps in the process. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Zott. And we'll have any questions for you when it comes up on the agenda.
Thank you,
How about
Mr. Chairman.
that?
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir, please.
Oh.
Today's the day, apparently.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm a resident in the area. My wife and I are.
Can I get your name, please?
It's Matt Bradley.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep. So wrote down a couple things here, make it short and sweet. Then I have a kind of a little, somewhat of a question at the end for everybody what they think. So I'll read this. So we've been battling this for about 15 years. Was not tabled at the previous county commissioners meeting. The request for a subdivision was denied. It was requesting rezoning. She had been listed, this property had been listed for sale with the Cheyenne Century 21 as quote, income property trailer park. Has been added onto, since the county commissioner denied her subdivision request, there are 15 mailboxes for her property. It's not consistent with the single resident area. So how many more times will we have to stand up here and do this? So that's that, 15 mailboxes for that area. I understand going for commercial zoning, I get what's happening. My question is, if we look, maybe a question that people haven't asked yet, if this happens, if we do zoning and allow trailer park to be put in, how many more are gonna wanna do it? I mean, that area is not set up for commercial, the intersections, the amount of people, the maintenance on the roads, which are already washboardy beyond belief. So say it does happen. Well, Mr. Jones down the street, well, he wants to do the same thing. He wants to make some money. So how far does it go? I mean, if this happens and it is allowed, why wouldn't the next person be allowed to? And after a while, we have one massive trailer park in the area that we don't have water. We start drilling wells. Okay, we can do reverse osmosis if you want to put that money into with their own well, but everything gets rezoned. Because if this one becomes commercial, why can't I? Why can't I have 15 trailers on my property? So at what point do you say, you know, it's not right with the zoning, with the intersections, everything doesn't kind of, you know, line up. But if it does happen, who else wants to do it? And how far do we go and what's it going to look like? And how much trouble is it going to be? So that's just something I wanted to bring up, that, you know, if I do it, why can't the next person? And we don't want that. It's just not sustainable around there. So
Thank you,
something to
Matt.
think about. Thank you.
Yes, sir, please come on up.
Morning,
Good morning.
my name's Mark Rosman. I'm the president of the Alco Rod and Gun Club. Good to see all these smiling faces here today. This thing just won't shut up. Stupid phone. I'm a realtor and it just never quits. Anyways, as the president of Rod and Gun Club, my foremost concern is the integrity and quality of the water in our lakes. People eat the fish from those lakes. It's a real strong biome of naturally occurring freshwater shrimp, micey shrimp, the scuds they call them. You feed all these trout and they're just very healthy. They're so healthy, the pelicans come in and devour them. But that's a whole nother story. I also live on the lake, and a few months ago I started testing the water because I'm real concerned about this illegal trailer park. They've thumbed their nose at every rule and regulation right from the get-go. And I don't see how that's even going to get better. It's only going to get worse. There's a home that's built close to the lake that I don't know who does that kind of construction, because the whole thing is like tilting down. What's up with that? That's not any type of code or quality construction integrity. Was there any perk test done? Where's all the substance to this? It's gonna devalue the property values out there. They've been coming up in recent years. More and more people, myself included, have built newer homes out there. The property values will, accordingly increase the property tax from those properties. It's well over $100,000 a year now, way over. A lot of concern from a lot of people, especially the residents that live on the lake. It's just too many unanswered questions. I think you may have heard from Tom about 9 Mile Water and Sewer District, all the issues with that. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Anybody else in the room speak on or against the Reed zoning district amendment? And how about online? I don't suspect anybody online wants to. I don't see anybody here, but go ahead if you'd like to. All right, last call in the room and online for on or against the Reed zoning district amendment application. I entertain a motion to close that public hearing, please.
I move that we close the public hearing. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Next up, comments from the public. If you'd like to make a comment on this agenda or any other agenda or any other item, please come on up. Thanks, and good morning.
Good morning. So I have a copy for each of you commissioners, and then I have an extra for the clerk. I've been needing to do this for a while. And then it was easy for me to walk up in the sunshine today and do this. So you haven't seen me for a couple years, but I'm here on behalf of the Albany County Conservancy today. And I'm here, first of all, to identify that Albany County residents feel an undue burden. They feel that they have to watch the processes that are occurring in the county in regards to industrial energy development because it's not transparent and there's not good communication. So I'm sure that a lot of you are up to date with news. It was nice to read the comment from Mr. Gosar in the paper last week, along with my comments in the Cowboy State Daily regarding the Rail Tie Wind project and the financial adequacy application. That wasn't handled correctly. The parties weren't informed about that application. And so that has been moved to the May agenda and an appeal has been filed in the Albany County Court District. I'm here also to identify that with the Rock Creek transmission line, that was not handled correctly. There was no public notification ever given. My conservancy sent the Rollins Field office of the Bureau of Land Management repeated communication over a 2-year time period, very politely. And then finally, through those processes, found out that a right-of-way was signed. And you cannot sign a right-of-way on an environmental assessment when you do not make that public notification in a county anywhere, not in the local paper, not on your own website. The Bureau of Land Management e-planning website did not list the Rock Creek Gen Pi transmission line. And then my conservancy was told repeatedly in emails that there was no federal nexus. I participated in the Rock Creek Wind Energy Industrial Siting Council hearing, and nobody used the term NEPA. And you should get familiar with these terms because Rail Tie Wind was a NEPA because it sits on a federal power line. Rock Creek Gen Tie line is a NEPA because it sits on 4.9 miles of public property. And I believe the Two Rivers Wind project is a NEPA. So these should all be something that you see in your newsfeed when you think of your responsibilities at the county level. And they told me it was not a federal nexus, which means it does not sit on federal land, which was a lie. And they told me it was not a federal nexus because it could be on private property. But if it could be on private property, why did we not see that in the documentation? And why was an environmental assessment done? The Bureau of Land Management does not do environmental assessments that they do not show the public when it is on private land. So the Albany County Conservancy filed a petition in the Wyoming District of Federal Court, and 30 days later, we had a voluntary remand without going to hearing. And why I identify that to you today is because there was no public notification again regarding the Rock Creek Wind Gen-Tie transmission line environmental assessment. They put the public notification in the Rollins paper. And while that's nice, and it does sit in Carbon County as well, that is not nice for the people of Albany County because the power line sits in Albany and Carbon County. And so the only entity, when they gave the full remand, they said that they did so because they wanted to notify the public and they knew that further environmental analysis was necessary for NEPA. And then they did not do that. They increased the font size of that document that was out after I sent a certified letter. And that is what happened to empower me to file the petition in federal court, is because I saw that the director signed a right-of-way. But they did not do further analysis. They just made the document look 65 pages bigger, but it was the same document. And so the Conservancy did get their comments in time. And that gets to how there was an article on the front page of the Laramie Boomerang, but articles can't touch upon this and journalists can't know this kind of thing. And you need to be aware this is happening around you. I can tell you that I just got a letter at 5:45 p.m. on a Friday regarding the historic site mitigation for rail tie wind. And why did they do that? Because they're truncating my comment period. They want to send it on a Friday. They want to send it after hours because that eats up 3 calendar days. I'm so used to this. It doesn't matter what company or what developer or who's behind this. These are well-tuned, manipulative, strategic tactics that are used a lot. They're used a lot with transmission lines, wind energy projects, all sorts of energy projects. And this is new to me because, as you know, I'm a portrait photographer. So if I'm telling you this, it's really blatant, it's really obvious, and it's cumbersome. I'm having people in the county tell me, hey, I'm getting my marriage certificate today. Why are these, and I didn't bring my phone up, why are these transmission line maps on a counter in my Albany County courthouse and what do they represent? And so I had to go down to the courthouse and Cammie was very polite to me and she looked into this. And so do you know that people leave things on counters rather than getting them to the appropriate staff? And that there are pages missing and we don't know what this stuff is. And they're not asking you all, they're asking me because they know where to find me at Ludwig Photography. So I just say Cammie's doing her due diligence because those maps had a timestamp on them that said December 20th. So who knows how long they've been there and what they're supposed to represent, but that's not transparency. And I feel like everybody's chasing their tail because, you know, it's not your fault. Right? But how can we tighten this up? How can we encourage everyone to follow best practices? And so what I handed you today is I want you to be aware that Albany County is extremely special. So you, Mr. Gosar, brought Mike Lockhart to the Rock Creek Wind final conversation in 2022, I believe. Was it 2022?
Not sure I brought him. I think Mike brought himself, but.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I thought you did. I was so excited that he had a PowerPoint. I didn't know he was going to be there that night that I attended. But the reason he brought himself is because we have the heaviest concentration of golden eagles in the entire continent. That I've learned in the past 3 years. So why is that important? That species is protected. we have a federal law called the Bald and Golden Eagle Preservation Act. And so what sits before you is in 2022, in December, they came out with an environmental assessment to reevaluate their rules regarding eagle take. So what you have in front of you are a whole bunch of links from that document, but those rules now go into effect April 12th of this year. And why that's of concern to the Conservancy is you have a sink population, quite possibly. And I'm pulling this term from an Audubon submitted letter in regards to Two Rivers Wind that is fully publicly accessible. If you go to the BLM e-planning website and you type in Two Rivers Wind, all the public comment letters are there. So you'll see the Albany County Conservancy public letter, and you will also see the Audubon submitted letter that was signed by, I believe, John Burroughs with the Wyoming Outdoor Council. And that letter identifies that we are killing our population of golden eagles, and we are very attractive to migratory golden eagles who typically come from here. We have breeding pairs here. And I think that's what Mike may have discussed in 2022 when he did his slide presentation to you. So these migratory eagles overwinter here and they stay here. So we're killing a continent-wide based population of golden eagles. So every time we are approving a transmission line, every time we are approving a wind or solar energy project, because we don't have anything to prohibit that activity in our county regulations, right? Because I watched requests for moratoriums, I watched conversations, I watched updates to wind in the county, the planning component of that. I have concerns about solar because you have Next Era Wind, which I think now is a Duke Energy wind project. I'm not so sure. That's the Roundhouse Wind project. That is on the way to Cheyenne. That is on the western side. They were mandated to pay $8 million because they had never applied for an eagle take permit on any of their wind projects in the country. And the Department of Justice caught them and they fined them. So these new rules make it so that won't happen anymore. So I encourage you to read those rules, see what's been changed, and see why they are a travesty for this county. Economically, eagles are an externality. And I had that conversation with the Public Service Commission when they had the Rock Creek Wind Public Service Commission hearing. That was before the Rocky Mountain Power rate increase conversations by about, 8 months. But I encourage you to start looking at this, because that comment that it would be nice to have a page where you would be told where not to put these things because of wildlife impacts. You're not going to get that. You need to manage your own business in your own county. The federal government has NEPA to involve the public, but it's already out there. It's already accessible. And then the reason I'm notifying you of the rules is that removes your ability to follow that process. It takes it so it's discussing internal audits, and that eagle numbers are going to be now not delivered by people like Mike Lockhart, who are trained biologists, who are falconeers, but it will be delivered by proponents, maintenance, staff. So it should be of concern to you. And thank you for listening. And if you ever have any questions, you know how to find me.
Thank you. Anybody else? Public comment? How about online? I'd entertain a motion to close the public comment, please.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. 5, disclosures. Commissioner Jones, any disclosures?
Not today?
Commissioner Ibarra?
I have none.
I have none also. So item 6, considerations of changes on the agenda. Jennifer and Kayla looks like.
She can add your resolution.
So you can just add it.
Commissioners, we need to add a resolution today, which is resolution 2024-008. And it is the resolution initiating proceedings to vacate the north 36 feet of First Street along the south boundary of block 55 of the Centennial Plat. This is the resolution that goes along with Mr. Hare's vacation petition that you heard at the February 6th meeting. We just forgot to bring you the resolution at the same time.
Okay, can we put that at 27A, please?
And also with regard to the executive session, I need to add sub Romanet 7 as well.
And also, want to keep the 3?
Yes, please.
Okay. So 3 and 7.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Any other changes to the agenda? All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Now moves to page 2 under the regular agenda, item 8. Present for discussion and approval, resolution 2024-006, resolution to support restoring daily passenger rail service in Albany County. Vern, good morning. Could you give us a little bit about your organization and your thoughts about this, please?
Yeah, I didn't prepare a formal.
That's correct.
He didn't take it, but, first time Burn Haggerty, I live in Laramie. And I got new bifocal lenses, so I can't read anything anymore.
Oh, that's my favorite.
Realize your podium is short, or I'm tall. Thank you for placing this proposed resolution on your agenda, supporting the restoration of passenger rail service to Laramie and Albany County. I think the text of the resolution is really self-explanatory. Basically, for the audience, the Federal Railroad Administration has identified 15 preferred routes in their long distance passenger rail route study. 15 preferred routes to restore. A route that goes through Laramie and Albany County is on the list. We made the top 15. We made the 15, the cut. In the next phase, they're going to identify recommended routes. And I see this sort of like March Madness. We're in the Sweet 16, and the question is, do we want to go to the Final Four? And I mean, if they're asking me, I say yes. I submitted to the clerk a copy of the sign-on letter that we circulated, and it was kind of a rushed job because they're on a pretty tight schedule. The comment deadline is March 8th, which is this Friday. That's why I tried to get this on your agenda for today's meeting. And by my count, we have so far like 100 people have signed that sign-on letter. And I have not encountered anybody in this community who is opposed to having passenger trains. I don't know if maybe there are people, but I don't really sense that there's an organized opposition to the idea. And that's really it. I hope you agree to adopt this proposed resolution. It's not at this stage, it's just an expression of really generic support. It's not a grant application or anything like that. It's just, do we want to be part of the next round where they consider actually recommending restored passenger rail service?
Thank you. Thank you, Vern. Commissioners, any thoughts, questions? Well, as a pilot, I love to travel by train. And,
I saw an airplane going through town on the railroad tracks the other day.
Yeah. And so if there are no questions, I'd entertain a motion for item 8.
I move that we approve item 8 as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Thank you, Vern, for bringing it to our attention. And we'll get that signed at the end of this meeting.
Thanks.
You bet. 9, present for approval agreement between the Board of the Commissioners of the County of Albany, Wyoming, by and through the Albany County Grants Office and Albany County Fire District 1 for grant services through June 30th, 2025. Haley, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Last fall, Luke Hawkins approached me about providing grant services for Fire District 1. I've talked with Kayla, Tracy, Jennifer, in order to figure out all the details. And we finally got an agreement figured out. We will be writing grants for them as well as managing their grants that they receive, especially their federal funding. So this is the agreement just to do that. We did decide to just do it for the 2 years in hopes that we can kind of set them up for success and not use them in the county offices. But we'll just see how this goes.
Thank you, Bailey. Commissioners, any questions for Bailey? If not, I'd entertain a motion for 9, please.
I move that we approve item 9 as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Item 10, present for approval, second amendment to funding agreement between the Board of Commissioners of the County of Albany, Wyoming and Albany County Fire District Number 1 for the use of ARPA funds for bathroom upgrades for a term extension through February 28th, 2025. Thanks.
So as you guys are aware, we've approved it multiple times. They are using some of our ARPA dollars for their bathrooms. They have had a heck of a time with contractors. They finally got one on board and the contractor is like, well, we can't get this done by July. I've talked with Fire District, I've talked with Jennifer, I reviewed the obligation rules under ARPA. We agreed that February 2025 would be a good date. If you guys aren't aware, ARPA has changed the obligation rules. Contracts we're not able to amend any contracts after the end of the calendar year. So this is pretty stuck in stone. If they can't get it done, it's not getting done. And we may have to turn the money back. So we, if they don't get it done. But I have confidence in them. It is contractor issues. I get it. We're just kind of in that post-COVID still. And getting contractors is hard at this point.
And that February date is what the contractors indicated.
Correct.
They could have everything.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions?
No.
I'd entertain a motion for item 10.
I move that we approve item 10 as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Item 11, discuss Rocky Mountain Blue Sky Solar Project. Any Leo or me? All right. So just a little bit of a background. The ratepayers in Rocky Mountain Blue Sky, in Rocky Mountain Power, add additional voluntary monies to their monthly bills to fund renewable projects throughout Wyoming. We'll talk about Wyoming. They do it in other states, but Wyoming is the one we're most concerned with. Albany County is amongst the most prolific of these donations to the Rocky Mountain Blue Sky program. The city has taken advantage of the solar arrays and charging stations on the fire station in West Laramie, also at the rec center, to offset their electricity, generating some of that right on site. The county has not been an applicant, but hopefully that will change here very soon. And so we have considered a solar array out by the road and bridge and search and rescue buildings. And the nice thing about the Blue Sky program is if it's awarded, they'll award a certain amount, usually quite a bit, towards the purchase and installation of renewable projects. Sometimes in the 70–80%, we'll see what they do. It's up to Rocky Mountain Power at this point. The nice thing, as we said after the Inflation Reduction Act, is that other 30% that the county might be on the hook for can be sent to the federal government, and hopefully a check for that amount will be sent back as part of the Inflation Reduction Act. Hopefully, in the end, we will have a solar array completely paid for by both the Blue Sky program and the federal government. Those are the broad brushstroke details of it. Bailey, do you have anything to add to it?
I'll let Leo.
And then we'll add Leo here. He's got a bit of a presentation for the commissioners and anybody else about the benefits of this solar array and the Blue Sky program. Leo, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Jones, Commissioner Ibarra. Thank you for having me. I'm here and happy to answer any questions. Commissioner Gosar and Bailey we've had some conversations about what it would look like to do a project like this. As the commissioner mentioned, we have been successful. My name is Leo Publis, by the way. I'm with Creative Energies Solar. And we've been successful in working with the city in the past in, getting some funding from these grants for, the rec center, the ice arena, Fire Station 3. There have been some others, but those are the big ones. But we haven't been approached by the county. And I've done my due diligence and been out to the site to try to make my best assessment of where to put these solar arrays, what would be required, what equipment would be required, and I came up with a a preliminary proposal for the cost of the projects, the equipment that would be needed, and the best place to put them. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen and show you some of the breakdowns of this.
Please do.
Let's see if it works here. All right, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, let me see.
Okay, here we go. Okay. Let me bring this from here. So as you can see, this is an aerial view of the road and bridge building and the search and rescue building just south of town, on 287, off of 287. I came up with two options for the projects just so that you could compare pricing. And based off of conversations with some of the folks out there, they seemed interested in putting two 25 kilowatt solar arrays on the ground, which are seen here. The location would be the north end of the lot behind the road and bridge, behind the search and rescue building. And that was determined, they'd be out of the way. There's no shade there, so their production would be maximized. I did offer a roof mounted option for both buildings, but that's a little bit cheaper. But there were some concerns as to the age of the roofs on both buildings and upgrades or re-roofing that would have to occur before that could happen. So I think based on conversations, folks are leaning towards the ground mounted systems. They're a little pricier due to labor and materials, but essentially they would be doing the same things. The array on the east side here would be connected to the meter on the search and rescue building, which is located right around here. This array would be servicing the road and bridge building. So it would require, some direct trenching lines from here to here, but all of that has been incorporated into the quote and into the preliminary proposal. I do have separate breakdowns of both systems if anyone's interested in looking at those. This is a conglomerate of both. If we move on down the proposal here, I have the systems that would be required to make these work. Would be a total of 120, 425 watt solar panels. There would be 60 for each system. The state of Wyoming doesn't allow us to build anything larger than 25 kilowatts. So each system would be a 25 kilowatt system. And it would offset, for both systems combined, you would see a 70% offset on what is being used, the power being used at each building. In the separate proposals, I have a breakdown for each building if you'd like to see that. One of the requirements for Rocky Mountain Blue Sky grants, when we did the rec center and the ice arena, it was just solar. We just want solar panels and a solar array, and there were no other requirements, so it was a pretty straightforward system. One of the requirements in order to get these grants now is a battery storage system. And because of the complexity of the road and bridge building, it is a three-phase electrical system, 480 volts. It makes implementation of battery storage a little bit more complicated. So because the the search and rescue building is a single-phase system, we're leaning towards putting just some supplementary battery storage there that would be coupled with the existing generator. So that battery system would work in correlation with the generator. The generator could potentially, if it's wired in a certain way, could potentially help charge the batteries along with the solar. So the way these systems are working now is pretty interesting in that you can have solar and a generator and a battery system. The battery system would just supplement select loads on that building. So here's just a breakdown of the materials that would be needed. I'm happy to run down those with you in more detail if you'd like. This would be the performance of the systems combined for both buildings. And then, as the commissioner mentioned, the total system price is listed here, but with a 70% match from Blue Sky, from Rocky Mountain Power, and the federal tax credit, which is now called direct pay for municipalities and nonprofits. It would cover the entire cost of the project. So essentially, the county would be benefiting from solar power on both buildings, saving money on their monthly bills, and the return on the investment would be, the amount of time, under a year, the amount of time that it would take for the grant funding to be received and the direct pay to be received from the government. So essentially, you could start saving money on those, in that investment right away. It would all be covered. If you look here, most return on investment for solar systems is between 10 to 14 years, depending on the size. And with this one, you would start paying it off pretty quickly. It'd be paid for, essentially. So I'm happy to answer any questions for you. This is just a preliminary estimate to give Bailey and the commissioners an idea of what the project is.
Thank you, Leo. Commissioners, any questions for Leo?
Go ahead, if you have questions. Leo, who would be managing the grant?
Bailey, or the Albany County grants division, yeah. I would be, I would provide them with the technical information for the equipment that's needed, but they would be managing the grant. Yeah.
What's the life of the batteries?
The warranty for the batteries is 10 years.
What's the cost of replacing the batteries?
That's depending on what would go wrong, right? If something would go wrong with the batteries, and then it falls under the warranty, the battery would be replaced, and it would be the cost of installing a new battery. So whatever, an electrical contractor would charge to replace that.
So at the end of 10 years, what's it going to cost to replace the batteries?
It might not be, the batteries might still be running after 10 years. I did speak.
You're avoiding my question.
Because it's kind of a broad question, but I did speak with Jake about this yesterday.
So, yeah.
He has the numbers crunched.
Yes, Commissioner Jones. So to answer your question, I ran all the numbers with exactly your question, and I came out with pretty close to the same. It still is a benefit, but currently the Rocky Mountain Power Blue Sky grant, that's what it is. It requires a battery for 4 years. So if that battery were to fail after 4 years, it doesn't have to be reinstalled. But if it was reinstalled 2 times, because the battery has 10-year life cycle, and this is based on a 25-year life cycle. So my assumption was that it would be replaced twice. It still is a net value to the county, pretty close to what Leo's number is of, depending on the building, 150, or let's see, we're in 53,000 for the search and rescue building, and 95,000 for the road and bridge over the life, 25-year life.
There would be no batteries on the bridge. It would just be
right.
Yeah.
That's
so if a battery goes bad, you don't have to replace it.
That is basically right. If it goes bad within the first 4 years, it's covered, I assume, 100% under the warranty.
Yes.
If it goes out after the 4 years, then you don't have to replace it under the current grant rules of Blue Sky.
Yes. Yes.
And so why are these not being set up so that you can park under them and use use that
I'm going under
footprint?
the request of, the folks at those buildings did not want them as carports.
Okay, that works.
Yeah, they just wanted them, we put them kind of out of the way, right? So they
It'd
were,
be nice to park in the shade though.
oh, I understand that, yeah. Yeah, it's a dual purpose, right?
And Arizona's been doing this for a long time
Yes,
and
ma'am.
they use them to park in the shade.
Yep. I did, recommend that, but I was told, we want them out of the way, so. Anything else?
So Leo, I guess it's, having pursued this, the county spends between $19,000 and $20,000 a month in electric expenses between all the buildings. That's $250,000. This is an opportunity here, for no money to offset that bill. Would you go to that monthly bill for those two buildings? To put up above, keep going. Right there, the old bill, if you click on that, I think it's nearly $800 in the old bill, and the new bill will be $200, starting right away. So a savings of over $500 a month in bills. That's real money. And that is healthcare for people. That's physicians in the county. That's
Wages.
graders, in our road and bridge. And so this is for me, this is a no-brainer, right? To get a solar array, hopefully for zero money, that saves you at least $150,000 if you buy 2 batteries over the life of the project, which is highly unlikely. So even if you just disconnected after 10 years and went right back to the generator, you're at $315,000 of savings.
So what's the guarantee that the government's gonna come in and pick up that other remainder?
I think it's really, really good. They have, on irs.gov, there's a form. I think I shared that with Bailey. And all you have to do as an entity who installs solar is fill out the form, and file it. I know you probably don't pay taxes, but you file it, during the tax period the following year. It's the same thing as the federal tax credit that residential customers have been taking advantage of for years. But they're offering it now to municipalities and nonprofits. So as long as you fill out the paperwork, you should receive the money.
There's always these, yeah.
Yeah.
When we heard about this, I did some research into that too, just to make sure that as a government, we would qualify, because ordinarily we wouldn't qualify.
Sure.
And I found the information that we would in theory qualify, and what we needed to do to get it. I forwarded it to Tracy to look at. And she also thought, well, Tracy can speak for herself, but Tracy has looked at it, and there wasn't anything that I saw or that Tracy relayed that she saw that we thought would be an impediment to us being able to collect that from the government.
And oddly, it looks like a very simple process when dealing with the IRS.
Oh dear, that's scary.
It's a little terrifying.
And even without it, right? So 30%, let's say the county 30% of 367, that's $108,000. It's bound roundabout, minus that from 314, you're still a net 200,000 to the good, even if you spent 30% on the project. So not many things come across our desk that say you get a new facility, a new program, new something, and you get $200,000 back. So obviously you understand where I'm at, but any other questions for Mr. Publitz? Super.
All right.
Thank
I
you.
will
for that.
unshare. Thank you so much.
All right, so after I was pulled into this application, I did some more research. I called Todd Feaser at the city to get his take on this because he's been through this application a couple times. He said it is a good program. Things have changed, like Leo said, when they did the rec center to when they do their fire station 3, which made them change a few things with their application. He gave me a contact at Blue Sky, Stacy Davis, that I've been in contact with. One of the things that Todd did bring up to me is Blue Sky actually only has a certain amount available for Wyoming for this year, and that number is $200,000. With that number, that would exclude us doing both those buildings. I've talked with Rob, I've talked with Aaron. And my recommendation, if you'd like to move forward with this, would be the SARS building. It has the most benefit to us in regards to financial. The other thing is I did pass the incentive on to these two and they looked it over. We think we're good there. There also is some other additional costs that we do need to take into account. It should be only about $2,000 from what Todd Feaser was recommending to me. We do have to put signage. We have to have on-site monitoring displays. We have to do media and publications. We have to do some sort of like celebration of it. And then some website information, which I think Adam's in the loop on at this point as well. So with that, I do need a direction from you all on what you guys would like to do exactly. So Leo can finish getting the numbers. We can finish up the application and move forward and get it submitted by the end of the month.
Yeah, Leo, please.
Bailey, quick question.
Yes.
So you're talking about the funding that's available, and that would be that would be considering the ground mounted systems.
Correct.
If you were to do the roof mounted systems, it's significantly cheaper with that.
Correct. You are right. And I have talked to Sheriff Appelhans and I have talked to Rob, and they would prefer not on the roof. They would prefer on the ground.
Perfect.
So that's
my other comment is the monitoring, the signage, all of that is included in the quote that I provided.
Is it? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because
Yeah.
Todd told me an additional money on top of that.
Yeah, since we did the fire station, we are now incorporating that into the quote to avoid any additional work for the customer or anything like that. So that is included. The monitor, the signage, everything is in there. And we would work in correlation with you to do a ribbon cutting.
Okay.
So Leo, just a question to you, splitting that system, if you were to put the whole thing forward and they only had $200,000, will they adjust it or they just deny it if you're beyond their ability?
Well, you have two options. You could ask for less funding. So I can
Please.
You could ask for a 50% or 60% match. We could crunch the numbers to see what that, how you could spread that $200,000. How much you could ask for to get that. Or you have the option of doing the roof mounted systems or just one ground mounted system. Or asking for the money and then you'd still get the 30% and then have to pay the rest out of pocket. You get the 200,000, do both projects, get the 30% direct pay, and then the rest would come out of pocket.
And with that you shared with us, could you share that with the commissioner? Because I think it's interactive, isn't it? That you could separate the system.
Oh yeah, would you like to see that?
Yeah, please. I need to make you a co-host again, Leo, just a minute. Okay.
Okay, so I did have the systems split in two here. Let me see if I can go. Okay, so this is both buildings. This one, it would be just the search and rescue. And that total system price would be $211,701, and that's because you would be using the batteries drive up the cost of the project. And then, but the offset for that building would be 113%. So it would essentially zero out the monthly bill if you went with that building. Road and Bridge is a little bit of a different story. The system would be much cheaper because there are no battery systems, implemented there. So it's just the cost of the solar. But they're using a lot more power there, so you would only be offsetting 58% of the monthly or the yearly energy consumption. So as Bailey mentioned, maybe if you want to do one system, the search and rescue, we could put the battery system there to satisfy the requirements, and you would be offsetting more energy. and, there would be ample funding. But if you do both systems, you would get, what is it down here? The match would be 257,000, 380 for both projects, so you would be getting 200,000. And then, you would still qualify for this much because it's based on 30% of the total project cost. And then the 57,000, 58,000 would come out of pocket. And that's the funny thing with Rocky Mountain Power is their funding changes every year. They can be kind of cryptic as to how much money there is out there. And I know, they do these programs in Utah, and Utah tends to have a lot more money. They have a higher population, so more people are paying into the Blue Sky program, and so they require more money.
Commissioners?
I would be behind just doing the SARS building, getting that completely done, and then we could look at other buildings in the future. So perhaps Rocky Mountain Power has additional money, but do the SARS building, I certainly can support that.
Leo, is this some money that comes up every year since the city has taken advantage of this?
Yes, it comes up 2 times a year. So the next deadline is at the end of this month to get the application submitted. And then the following deadline, I think is in September of this year. Now, the city went to the well a lot on these programs, and Rocky Mountain Power was happy to help out with that. But after the city did the fire station, they did tell me they've taken advantage of 2 or 3 of these grants, so they wanted them to wait a year before applying for another one. That's not to say they would do that to the county. You can always apply. You just, we have no guarantee that. So you could apply for this round, apply for the next round. And then, I spoke to Stacy Davis as well in January, and she didn't give me an exact number. She said, I think you're all right, go ahead and apply. But I think what Rocky Mountain Power doesn't keep in mind is that when you implement, they're implementing batteries into these programs now and saying you have to have them, and it makes the cost of the project go up considerably.
And so we will be looked at as a separate entity as far as the county and the city that
Yes, I
they've
do know
already
that.
awarded the city so often that
Yes, ma'am.
it would, okay.
Mhm. The Albany County and the city of Laramie are separate entities. As is Laramie Interfaith applied for one of these last year and got it. So
One thing Todd Fieser did mention when I talked to him is because they were so close with the rec center and then the fire station, they put in a 50% match at the fire station. So I asked him, why did you do that? Because I can't find anything on their Blue Sky's website on match. And Todd said it's because they applied like back-to-back years. If they have more match, it makes it look better for back-to-back years. So since this is our first one, what Leo has proposed seems perfectly fine with me. But moving forward, if we decide to apply again in September or, next year, we may need to consider adding more match.
if I can say one more thing, another thing to consider is that if you did both buildings and you did pay the 58,000 out of pocket, that's going to pay itself off as you're going to be saving money by not paying an electrical bill. I don't know what those numbers look like off the top of my head, but it's something I can look into to where, you're paying $58,000, $57,000 out of pocket. But as soon as that system's installed, you no longer have to pay that electric bill except for the monthly interconnection fee. And the WattSmart program, the reason they want the batteries is they want to use those batteries to discharge them from time to time to upload that energy onto the grid. And WattSmart does pay back for that. it's a little different in Wyoming than it is in Utah, and I know they just implemented that this year, so I don't know what that looks like, but once you have the system installed, you sign an agreement with Rocky Mountain Power saying that you want to opt into the WattSmart program, and that's also paying you some money back towards the cost of the system.
Tracy, if there was a $58,000 hit to the county, where would you recommend that money to come from, or is there money available for that?
Direct aid.
Direct aid?
Not necessarily in this fiscal year with our software project that we're doing, but I do know legislature has increased the direct distribution from the 105 million for the biennium to 146,250,000. So that would be an additional over and above what we kind of in the back of our mind plan to get from direct aid. I don't know what that number is. They didn't have it on the legislative LSO website yet.
Okay.
I have a question. Would you pay the 110,000 up front though? So we have to have the funds up front in order
Yes.
to be refunded. And that's the hope that we do get refunded. So we have to budget for it not being there.
Yeah, these grants are reimbursement grants.
Yeah. So that's,
So yes,
so it would be more than the 57,000 is what we would have to budget for. We'd have to more budget, if we went with the whole project, we'd have to budget for more like a
70.
160.
We do have funds also in contingencies to cash flow it. And then we could just reimburse contingency with direct aid, the route you chose.
Okay.
I do have a little concern if we apply for both at the 200,000 cap. That means nobody else in the state of Wyoming will be getting this funding this year. I don't know how many other applicants they're gonna have at this March deadline. But I've hardly ever seen that happen with any other funding, that they just give it all to one entity. So that is.
And I know of other counties that have.
You do, okay, I don't know, so. I think applying for the max could be rather difficult. And then that could put more match on the county.
I do know, Bailey, that there are other organizations that apply for these grants from time to time. And again, yeah, I don't know who in that may be, but I do know that my largest competitor in the state with these grants is my colleague in Lander. So him and I in the past have had to put our heads together and say, oh, hey, do you want to wait till spring, or is there enough funding for both projects? So I have seen that.
And typical timeline, we put it in March. When will you hear, Leo?
Usually they're pretty good about getting back to you in a month, within a month's time.
In a month's time?
Yeah.
And so if it wasn't successful in March, you could.
We could
burn it in
reapply for
August.
it for the fall deadline, yes, sir.
Okay.
This, just so you guys are aware, timeline wise, once we hear back from what Stacy said, they like to have the project completed by the end of the calendar year. So I mean, the September ones are different, but obviously this one, they want completed by the calendar year. She did say, of course, there's always exceptions, because we're still post-COVID, things coming in late, things like that, but they really like to see it done quickly.
So if it was awarded this year, they'd want it done by December.
Correct.
What I've seen, especially with the later deadlines, they give us a year. They'll give you a year, calendar year. Ultimately, yeah, they want it done by the end of the calendar year for the March deadline. And I can tell you right now, our pipeline, if this were awarded and a contract was signed in April, we're 90 to 100 days out lead time. If we were to install the project, it could probably happen late summer, early fall.
So do you have the manpower to get it done? Because that's
Absolutely.
the problem with most of the contractors is they don't have
Oh, yeah.
the help.
Well, we have a full-time crew of licensed electricians. Our entire crew is our licensed electricians. And yeah, we work all over the state. A 25 kilowatt or 50 kilowatt system in this case, if we did both buildings, we could knock that out.
Leo is aware that if we are awarded this funding, we would have to go out for RFP because of our procurement policy. So just so
Yeah.
you guys are all aware of that too.
Yes.
Leo doesn't automatically get the contract.
And I'm working as a consultant right now, to get this together for you guys.
Commissioners, any other questions? If not, I guess,
We just need to get Beatty.
We
Maybe
need some
direction
direction on
either
what exactly you guys want to
two,
fund.
one, or what?
I think to go for it.
I'm with you. I think 58,000, I could justify that to any taxpayer, on a return of $314,000.
Except for it isn't 57,000, is it? It's 100 and,
Upfront. it is.
Upfront, it's upfront, and I guess the cost of money, so at most would be 200,000, repaid 170,000 plus the 50,000.
If I could just make a quick comment, the reimbursement grants, I do some other ones with USDA. And the USDA requires full upfront payment and the system to be operational for a month before they give the money. I know in the past, Blue Sky has given the money once the contract is signed, but I would be prepared, in the event that anything happens, to be able to front the whole thing. And then, that would be a time period of, say, from this time you sign the contract till the project is installed, and then Blue Sky will give you the money.
So the full contract, meaning the full 367,000?
I would just be, and I can check on that with Stacy Davis, but
Okay.
I've seen funny things happen in the past with these things.
Thank you for the information.
And so, reimbursement grants sometimes means have the money ready. And then, the time to get it back is a few months.
Tracy, that's a different question. Would we have a place where it wouldn't hurt county operations to be able to front the full amount?
Yes, we can definitely cash flow that through contingency.
well, so if this didn't go according to plan, and then we take all that money and put it in, because then we're on the hook for it, and we have a real emergency come up, we're gonna have money?
Yes.
That's very concerning to me, because we've had some emergency issues this year. And if, God forbid, should we have any more, I don't want us to be whining that we don't have the money.
Well, we're not gonna spend the money, Terry, unless we get the grants, right? There's no point in us, unless we want to do that we're gonna front it only with a successful grant, so I guess you're
Right, but
basing on the
there's
contract.
always the possibility that it doesn't all flow through like what you hope it flows through.
Well, that's what the grant's for, Rocky Mountain Power, it's a contract. It's not their money, it's the money from
But
people. They're a
You're
middleman.
you're not getting what I'm saying.
Okay.
You still end up with whatever the federal government said they're gonna come in and pay. If they didn't pay it, then we're still out and we're on the hook.
Well, I
And,
guess-
and so really what I'm doing is looking at the worst case scenario. But as soon as you get into a worst case scenario, things begin to fall apart. I mean, they just do. When you stretch yourself thin, more and more things happen. That's what my concern is.
I think what we should do,
Yeah.
I think, I know Bailey's gonna be out, but maybe Brady could contact Rocky Mountain Power. I'm happy to do it as well. And speak with Stacy Davis and say, what are how are you awarding the money now? What is the timeline? They're either going to award you the money prior to the installation or shortly thereafter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand. What you're
Yeah, that's-
yeah. What I can say is, and you can check in with Todd Feeser about this. He has enough experience with these that we feel comfortable that, everything works out.
I'm not worried about the 257, 380 if we get awarded the grant.
Okay.
I mean, that is a absolute obligation from Rocky Mountain Power they
Yes.
do not, it's not their money.
Right.
They are a company that holds the money for these projects.
Correct.
So if Rocky Mountain Power defaults on that, well, then we've got some more that we're gonna be asking Rocky Mountain Power to pay as
Sure.
far as attorney's fees go. Don't worry about that at all.
Okay.
Not one little bit.
Okay.
So the most that we could be would be the 110 of the, and the 58, right? And it's still a 2-to-1 return on investment, even if we paid the worst case, federal government would get into the 110 and the 58 wasn't covered by Rocky Mountain Power. It's a no-brainer. we never buy one thing here
Mhm.
that returns double the money, right? I can't think of one thing. If somebody else can tell me, that would be great. But not one thing do we buy returns double the money we spent. So, that's an easy one for me to tell people who ask me.
I can address the commission
Sure.
on some of the strategy between it, just to give some of you
Go ahead,
guys
sir.
concerns. The way we looked at this, and Bailey and I have worked on a lot of grants together, and so we really know kind of what to expect in a lot of these grants, where the strategy behind it is to go ahead and move forward on the project, get the solar panels put in an area where if there are any long-term changes to the building on there as well, that the solar panels aren't going to be affected on it, so that we can basically remain energy neutral on that as well. So we've already looked at connecting that solar panels to certain areas within the search and rescue building to where it's not going to be those battery backups. The building won't be solely dependent on that battery backup. So that'll help with all of our comms, charging units, and other vehicles and units that we have within that search and rescue building. So we'll still keep the generator that's there, so that if we have any type of major critical infrastructure problems there, the generator still be there to energize the building as well. So we've set this up with a timeline to where we think that our application will be successful if we look for one building to where we're not taking the whole pool of money that's available. That'll help the chances of getting it successfully awarded to us. The timeline works out really nice as well in terms of getting awarded in possibly April or early May. Based on the commissioner's schedule, we can go to a contract sometime in May, start construction there, most likely the end of summer, have those trenches out before that permanent freeze, maybe not by the first freeze, depending on how the weather goes. If we get something early, but by that permanent freeze, have it on that building within that time frame of getting it done in the calendar year, having it up and operational. That building out there as well for search and rescue. The reason why it's located on the north side is for a lot of the operational issues that we have there as well. That construction will be out of the way and able to occur at the same time, even if if we have to utilize the building fully in its full capacity, depending on whatever searches that we have coming up in the summer or there as well. So in terms of fronting some of the money, if you guys decide to go both projects, like I said, with grants, we usually don't move forward on any of these projects if the grant isn't awarded. So you'll know within 4 to 6 weeks whether we're going to move forward on it as well. If you decide to do both projects and front that money up front, like I said, we took a look at the money that's available and the probability of getting reimbursed from the federal government. It looks pretty good, enough for me to come up here and say, wouldn't be doing this if we're taking huge risks. So it seems to be pretty, for the most part, pretty risk-free on it. It makes sense on this building. So there's challenges on some of the other buildings that we have to do this for. So, but this one's pretty good. So
once these panels are up at the SARS building, are they moved far enough south away from that fence line that they're not going to be shading the windows at Weed and Pest?
the batteries or the panels?
The panels.
So the panels will be based on the map there. It's on the north side of SAR, but on the south side of Weed and Pest.
Well, I understand that,
Yeah.
but I want to know if it's far enough away that it's not going to shade their windows.
No, it's not going to shade their windows. It's only going to be 3.5 feet off of the ground. So the most it'll do that we'll probably have to worry about is shading the ground over there, and then us having to cut all the weeds and tumbleweeds out.
Well, we know that you don't do that, but no, Weed and Pest does it.
Right. So
And they don't cut, they spray.
right. So no, there's no concerns with the Weed and Pest building. Like I said, it's in a great location to where we can tie into the box at SAR. And like I said, in the future, or if we decide to do both projects, tie into the box over there at Road and Bridge. So like I said, everything's been taken into account. Like I said, mitigated all of our risks as much as we possibly can. So looks like a good project going forward.
Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate it. Any questions for the Sheriff?
No. I'd like to hear from Rob, if you have any.
I think one
Comments?
of our main concerns when we started is that because we're three-phase and a lot of our equipment inside the shop runs on, you know, like our welders or our crane or stuff is on the higher voltage. I know we did just what's been maybe 2 years ago, we replaced all the overhead lights in the shop. That was one of the things we were unable to do until they came up with a new LED light that would operate on that. So I guess my concern is the three-phase part of it, and can we incorporate that in without it costing a lot? And you know, I know the generator has worked well for us if electricity's gone out. So I think that was part of the worries too, is that, you know, the generator was gonna go away, but I guess that's not happening, so that's good. I don't know when you come into the building from over at SARS, if you're gonna come to the edge of the building and go into the building with electricity or around. So one of the things we have to look out for on the outside is excuse me, I know they put a gas line in out there to go to the SARS building back in like 2018 or something like that. So anyway,
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, Rob, so I looked into all of this, when I was creating the proposal. So our plan would be to trench, underground from the solar array over to the road and bridge building, and then run exterior conduit on the outside of the building, for the solar, home run cables. And, we don't plan on doing anything inside the building. Our point of interconnection would most likely be exterior at the meter on the west side of the building. So we would not be touching anything on the inside. Everything would be done on the exterior. Thanks.
Anything else? I guess we'll just give Bailey direction on what you would like to do. Looks like it would be SARS independently or both projects together.
I guess I still feel like I want to go for it. If we don't get it, we have an opportunity again in the fall to do it. And, yeah.
And there may be more funding in the fall. You know, it's such a variable thing with them, so.
I'm a real proponent of a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, so I'd like to do the SARS building.
Yeah, I guess I'll follow with on the side of Sue here. This is an investment that it's, even if the worst case scenario is realized, still returns twice the money we spend in it. And so I'd like to do the two buildings.
So just for clarification purposes, you wanna apply $200,000 from the Blue Sky grant, which is 55%. The $110,305.80 from the federal tax credit, which is that 30%, and then 15% from the county funds, at $57,380.20. Is that correct?
Yeah, if awarded. Yep. And if they don't have any extra money lying around to help the county out. Does that suffice?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you much. Thanks for the discussion. Really do appreciate it. Look forward to seeing what will happen.
But this was presented for approval.
Okay, I entertain a motion then. Thank you.
No, it was just discussion. It's just for her to move
The next
forward.
one.
It's 11. Oh, it's the next one. Okay.
Okay, this is just for her to move forward to apply for the grant. Then you guys will have to approve the grant application anyway, so.
12, present for approval agreement between the Albany County and Creative Energies to provide consulting services with a Blue Sky application at a rate of $200 an hour.
This is just a consultant contract for Leo's services to help us with this application.
What's that guesstimated number of hours?
We're between 10 and 15 currently.
Would that be about where you end up?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so between $2,000 and $30,000.
And at this point, I do have enough in my unanticipated match. We can pay it.
Okay, thank you.
Entertain a motion for 12 if there are no questions.
I move that we approve item 12 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries.
Leo, I want to thank you for coming today. I had a lot of questions and you actually in your presentation answered them. So I really appreciate you being here to give us that information.
Thank you so much, and thanks to you guys for allowing me to chat.
Item 13, present for consideration the Reed Zoning District Amendment Application ZDA 06-23. Joe, good morning.
Good morning, commissioners. So I guess after what you've heard this morning, if you want to table it, you can do it now. If not, you can go through the staff report, make a decision.
Commissioners, any questions?
Well, so why is, I just need this clarified, okay? So why is it being tabled rather than just taking it off the agenda and coming back when they're prepared?
Because that's what the applicant asked for. They asked to table it in order to explore other ways. I'm not sure what that reasoning was, but.
I don't mean to speak for the applicant, but my guess would be so that they don't have to go back through the process that has already occurred, should they decide to move forward with what's in this agenda item now instead of doing something else.
Yeah, and the applicant's here. Would you like to speak to that, Ms. Reed? Or Mr. Sapp? So the question is, why would you like it tabled this, other than pulled off the agenda? Why the tabling and not the removal from the agenda?
And Mr. Chairman, I agree with what was said. We wouldn't want to have to go through the whole process again. Now, I'm not sure exactly what that would, if it were pulled off the agenda, I'm not sure exactly what the effect of that would be. But if the effect would be that that's tantamount to a denial and that we'd have to start from scratch, that's certainly why we would rather have it tabled, give us the opportunity to pursue the other avenue and or to present additional information to address some of the concerns.
Jennifer, do you have any thoughts about that?
No, I think that makes sense to me.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
And this is, because it is a zoning district amendment, this is not one that is subject to a time constraint. The 45 days that we
That's what I
sometimes
wondered.
look at, so we do not have that concern here.
All right, Joe, anything else for us to consider?
No, I mean, if you're looking to table it, I would just say like, and you want to hold another public hearing, I would mention that in your motion.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any thoughts?
I guess a part of me feels like it's would be nice to allow these guys the added time to get further information. I'm not sure it would make that much a difference of how I'm feeling right now as far as this application. So we have a gentleman in the back who'd like to.
Oh, yes, sir, please, stop.
Back in 2011, the Albany County Planning Office asked Ms. Reed to abate what she was doing. She did not. She continued to abuse the regulations. It has come up again, and now she is extending those abuses to the regulations. She wants to change it. My attitude as a member of the 9 Mile Water District says, no, let's have it taken care of now. She has continued to abuse what the planning office recommended in 2011. And with that, I thank you for your time.
Is that accurate, Joe, David, that the planning office is at?
So, Mr. Chair, I believe what they're referring to is there was some proceedings that were moving forward as part of an enforcement process to have her remove trailers and such to bring it into compliance. And before we had like a actual hearing, Ms. Reed did remove those trailers for a period of time. So she did come into compliance with what was asked for at that time. Since
I have a
then, things
question.
have changed, but at that time, yes, they were removed from the property.
So have more trailers been brought in, so she's out of compliance today?
Correct.
Terry, any thoughts?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts.
Me too. I just have to tell you, there are more issues with this than just the zoning, quite honestly, in my mind. And I don't know what it would take to get across the line, right? Running a mobile home park without a mobile home park license, difficult. Running that on a place that doesn't allow that, also difficult. The water and sewage and incredibly difficult roadways. Is there a path in the planning department that you could see where this could all come into compliance and be something before us that we could consider in good faith?
Unless something major changes, I don't see it happening.
Thank you, Joe. David?
And yeah, the path that they're going down now, if they were to receive a zoning district amendment for commercial, and if they went back and did the process to create a mobile home park and that was approved, then things could be made legal for what's out there. The other legal path is to remove the trailers and have what's already permitted on the property. Those are the two ways to make this legal. And that's why this path has been taken and recommended to be taken at this time to at least see what would be said. So, but yeah.
So what else is out there that's commercial?
The lake.
Well, the lake's technically commercial, however, it's a lake, it really should be agricultural, I would say. But that was based on,
Because
again, what the taxes
my concern
were.
was, is this leapfrogging? And
Right, there's no other commercial uses out there other than like along the highway, which that's different than where
Yeah.
this is, because this is
I know
not even
exactly what
next
this is.
to, this property is not actually
Adjacent to.
adjacent or abutting a public road. They have to cross the other property to get to this property, so. Yeah, not the best place for commercial, as was what was recommended in our staff report.
Any other questions? Any other concerns? I'd entertain a motion if there are none.
I don't want to table this.
Okay.
So I move that we deny this application based upon the applicant's failure to adequately address the impacts specified in the ACZR Chapter 3, Section 5 subsection, and the fact that she is out of compliance currently. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Item 14.
Chairman,
Yeah.
we have a 5-minute break.
Sure, you bet. How about, let's come back at,
Coffee runs right.
we're at 11:10, please. We'll stop for 8 minutes. I'm unmuting.
So, restate that.
So we, on item 13, we had eliminated some additional language that needs to be in that motion and vote. So can we redo that, Commission?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion for item 13, please.
I'd like to amend my motion to read that we deny the rezoning district amendment application based upon the applicant's failure to adequately address the impacts specified in the ACZR, Chapter 3, Section 5, and also adopting and incorporating the staff finding analysis, findings of fact, and conclusion of law, which are stated in the staff report.
I would second that.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Thank you, Jennifer, for reminding us that. 14, present for consideration amendments to the Albany County Plating and Subdivision Resolution pertaining to fencing. Joe, please.
All right, Planning and Zoning Commission member, Mara David worked with Matt Ayers, Deputy County Attorney, to draft wildlife fencing standards to go along with the statutory mandates to require fencing for new subdivisions. These amendments to the Planning and Subdivision Resolution include the recent statutory amendments into Chapter 5 and add requirements for perimeter fences in Chapter 6. It is the Planning Department's recommendation that the Board of County Commissioners direct staff to publish these amendments to the Albany County Planning and Subdivision Resolution and schedule a public hearing for May 7th.
Commissioners, any questions for Joe? Not entertain a motion for item 14.
I move that we approve item 14 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Do you need that public hearing in the motion?
Yeah.
Oh,
May 7th, I think.
and advertise the public hearing for May 7th.
Second agrees.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. 15, consideration directive to publish an amended fee schedule for the Albany County Planning Department and schedule a public hearing. Thank you, David.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, from time to time, we review our fee schedules and make some changes. We did that this year, and changes would include the following. We would change the wastewater permits from 325 to 350. We would change the floodplain development permit from 300 to 350. Change the mobile home park license late fee from $100 to $100 per month. And then there are some other amendments that we made just to match terminology we have on our website and in our applications, just sort of things a little more consistent. But at this point, we're just asking for your direction to publish the amended fee schedule and to schedule a public hearing for May 7th.
Commissioners, any questions for David?
No.
I'd entertain a motion for 15 then, please.
I move that we approve item 15 as presented
And publish the hearing.
and publish, sorry. And and publish the hearing for May 7th, 2024.
Second.
Yes.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Item 16, present for approval utility license for Wheatland Rural Electric Association on County Road number 61, Fetterman Road, Laramie, Wyoming, located in section 31, Township 23 North, range 74 West, and section 6, Township 22 North, range 74 West. Rob, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a utility license for the Wheatland Rural Electric Association so they can get electricity to the buildings of operations for the wind towers in that area of Boswell Springs.
Commissioners, any questions for Rob? If not, I entertain a motion for 16.
I move that we approve item 16 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. 17, present for approval, travel repayment agreement for the RISE 24 conference between Albany County Board of Commissioners and community partners. Bailey, thank you.
Hi, Commissioners. The travel agreement, you approved a template, I believe, at your last meeting or 2 meetings ago, in regards to just when people not associated with the county travel on grant funds that they repay it. So every time we do have them fill it out, then it will need to come back to you. So this time we have Jackie Bridgman, Patty Bennett, and then Foundations Counseling have completed theirs. So those are in front of you today. And then we're still waiting on a few more to get them booked for the training that's in end of May.
Commissioners, any questions for Andy? Not an entertaining motion for 17, please.
I move that we approve item 17 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. 18, award the bid and approve contract between the Board of Commissioners of Albany County, Wyoming and SNL Industrial for Albany County High Risk Rural Roads Project, HR 23101, for the purchase and installation of delineators along Soldier Springs Road. Rob?
Yeah, this has been quite the
Are we gonna get it
project.
done?
Yeah, and thank you for Bailey for saying, don't quit. Cause it's been a process, but yeah, finally we got the approval from YDOT and we have a contractor that's gonna put them in, so.
Great.
Awesome. Any questions for Rob? I entertain a motion for 18, please.
I move that we approve item 18 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. The Odyssey's coming to an end. Rob, I know you'll be disappointed. You and Bailey will be disappointed.
Yeah, that'll really help because that's a really dark road. So
Yeah.
that's excellent.
19, present for approval grant agreement between the Wyoming Department of Health, Public Health Division and Albany County for the purpose of addressing public health infrastructure needs and expand workforce development in an amount not to exceed $41,240 from the effective date through November 30th, 2027. Yeah, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Thanks. I'm gonna be brave and do my talking, I guess, instead of Bailey. So this is just a grant that we got from the state in order to help facilitate infrastructure and promote workforce development. And I just need an approval, or if you have any questions. I kind of feel like burn here. They told me it was anti-fatigue, so I'm still trying to figure out like how to read as well.
Any questions for Kim? And if not, I'd entertain a motion for 19.
I don't have any questions. Sure.
No, I'm good.
I move that we approve item 19 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Item 20, present for approval Blue Cross Blue Shield of Wyoming Medicare Advantage PPO Provider Agreement with Albany County Public Health. Kim, please.
Yeah, so this is just Blue Cross Blue Shield letting us know that they're including this Medicare Advantage and to re-sign the contract, enabling us to utilize that if our clients qualify for it.
Kim, I have a question. It mentions provider and doctor, and it doesn't
Yes.
mention nursing as.
Well, so technically we run on policies provided from the state with our CHO or the state health officer. So we are a nurse-run office, but we do have orders from doctors. So it's some of the things that we do would fall under this contract, I believe. So.
Yeah, and I was a little concerned if somebody was, for instance, having mental health, depression as a nurse. It seemed in that contract like we would have to tell Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and I'm not certain I'm excited about that.
Oh, like as a nurse, we would have to report that, like.
Well,
Yeah.
as the entity, it
Yeah.
says anything that, and I'm paraphrasing,
Yeah.
gets in the way of somebody doing the work, has to be reported immediately.
That, yeah, I didn't like take that into account, and honestly, like, I mean, as a nurse, we're mandated reporters anyway, so like, if anybody's in harm of themselves or other people, like, we would have to take action as well, like, so,
Okay, well, if you don't have any
but
concerns about it,
do you know which one that was?
I want to say it was under 5.7.
5.7.
I think is
I'll
that
just
five
take
in
a
there?
look. But, I mean,
5.7.
Yeah, there is services rendered by non-physician providers.
No, that's not it. Sorry.
that's okay.
There's a list of them under.
Oh, imminent harm.
3.16.
So, I mean, I guess in my like reading of it, like I said, we're mandated reporters, or if somebody comes back and, you know, if somebody, for instance, a couple years ago, like if you give your vaccines too high, people can have SERBA. So we would have to report that anyway, like anything that would have, that we would find out was harmed, like either our doing or. Yeah, I mean, we would report that anyway, and we would fill out like paperwork through the state as well to cover that.
Okay, I'm probably
So-
reading it way too closely.
So you're already obligated to do that.
Yeah, like if we, you know, we report like if it was a wrong dose given, like a child got an adult or vice versa, we would report that anyway. So I feel pretty comfortable in that.
Okay. All right, I don't have any other questions.
Do you think? I should ask my legal No, I counsel. think it's okay also. I'm just
Yeah.
rereading. Yeah. I don't.
It's the G under that one that is a bit,
Mhm.
but I'm sure that they do this with other public
Yeah,
health offices. I just wanted to make sure that you were all right with that.
yeah.
I entertain a motion for item 20.
I move that we approve item 20 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thanks, Kim.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. 21, present for approval, reallocation of ARPA funding for the county clerk's office. Reallocate the 12,000 allocated for the election building parking lot project to election education. Morning, Kayla.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I believe when Jackie was still in office, we were allocated $12,000 to fix the parking lot next to the election building because we have some drainage issues when we get high rain, which we don't get that a lot, but when we do have some issues. I don't think in the time frame before the election that we're going to be able to get that fixed. I think it needs to be done, but I'm not sure that those funds are just going to sit there. So I'm hoping, look at Jake there.
Jake looks like he's ready to
Oh, I
spray.
know. I want that money though, Jake.
No, what I was gonna say was not for that. at
Oh,
all.
good.
But what we did, there was some issues, but we fixed the building, which was contributing to that flooding.
Mhm.
And so it wasn't necessarily the parking lot, but I believe that issue has been addressed.
It has, but I still think there's still some, you and I can
We
chit chat. I
we can
think,
talk about
I think that there's some other things that we can do. I don't think at the cost of $12,000. That could probably come out of the building reserve if there were some small things. I know before Roy left, he worked with the thresholds and things on the building and then the eaves, the gutters, thank you, yeah. They did because there was some leaking on that. So, but we were allocated that much money. Now with all of the changes in legislation that happened in 2023 with elections and some rules that are going forward with the Secretary of State's office and whether or not those will get approved and signed by the governor, we have a lot of education to give out to people in a very short amount of time. And these funds would go to probably sending postcards, doing some media things to give that to get that information out to the public in a timely manner, because like I said, we're kind of running on crunch time with party changes happening and the decreased time frame of absentee ballots. I just feel that's important for my office. It's our role to get that information out to voters. So I would like to reallocate that money to election education, whether that be postcards or whatnot, or if you leave that up to my discretion. We'll use what we do. If we don't use it all, it can go back into the general fund. But if we could use some of those funds to put out some election education, I would appreciate it.
Commissioners, any questions for Kayla? If not, I entertain a motion for 21.
I think it's imperative that you get some education out
Same
there.
here.
And there's no problem with that, Bailey.
No, she brought it up to me. I just said it needed to go to you all because it did originally. And she.
So I'm just curious, is it because that funding was for,
A different project.
well, a different project, but I thought because it was for the elections building, then it could be still used in elections.
No, I mean, with ARPA, we're being very careful and very specific on what you guys say, what you guys allocate to certain projects, because we don't want to get in trouble with.
Right, that's where I'm just.
So because it says elections, that's a little too vague for my. And then I think the federal government would have a problem with it. I mean, even when I come back in May, one of the things Jennifer and I are gonna really dig into, make sure we have everything covered, is those obligation rules for ARPA. Because just because you guys allocate does not mean it's obligated. So we've given every county project that you guys did allocate funding towards to budget session. And then if they don't complete that, we're swooping it back in to then allocate during budget and has to then be used by the end of the calendar year. But when Kayla approached me with this, I was like, I don't care. I think it definitely fits into within ARPA, but she did have to take it to you.
Well, I think this is good use of those.
Yes, same here. Thank you.
I move that we approve item 21 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Thank you, Kayla. Thank you, Bailey. 22, present for approval, software as a service agreement between Pilot Technologies, Inc. and the Board of Commissioners of Albany County, Wyoming for enterprise resource planning, software and implementation services as outlined in the investment summary. Tracy, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm gonna try really hard not to geek out on this because
We'll call you out if you're geeking.
I am a self-proclaimed number nerd and love all things accounting, and this is going to make my staff and myself very happy. So this software package is going to include the financial management, which includes accounting, budgeting, contract management, project and grant accounting, which I'm hoping will make Bailey's life easier because she's got so much to do as well. And that CFA is her nemesis in the past, but not anymore. She's got it down. It will also encompass human resource management, including recruiting and payroll, revenue management. So some of our offices, we have some little odd things we bill out for. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, maybe forest patrol for the sheriff's office. That'll help us track those one-off things. With that revenue management, the software will integrate with our current TaxWise software, which will bring all those mill levies and property tax and motor vehicle collections into the software in a CSV file, which right now that's a manual process. We take it out of the TaxWise, put it into Excel, and then put it into our accounting software, which takes my chief deputy about a day to do. So that's going to free up her time to do other more important things. Another feature of this software that I am really excited about, because we did cancel the contract with OpenGov, is this has what is called My Civic. So it'll have all the information in real time out to the website. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to look yet, but it'll have a lot more transparency in our financial dealings available to the public. Content Manager, in part, if I remember correctly, it has been about 6 months since we did our demos. But the Content Manager, for instance, and I think yesterday I was kind of briefing on this, was as we enter invoices and vouchers, it'll create a label. We scan that, it'll read the label and automatically file that to the vendor screen. Yeah. Vendor document area. So then all those documents will be readily available, and maybe we can get rid of some paper. Yes. I think that's everybody's favorite thing. Get rid of paper. It also has some enterprise analytics and reporting, which will be able to change different kind of reports for whatever you want to see on budgeting. If you want to see performance-based budgeting, I think that's over and above this, but it will give us that first step into some new reporting and graphs. We are looking down the road as well, we kind of want to leave this as a project. Let me back up a piece. We've had the current software since 1999, and we have just outgrown it. And so with this software, we hope to bring it to the future so we can leave kind of a legacy of, here's this great software, you can still grow with it. An example is Laramie County uses the same software. They've had it for 10 years, and they, Mr. Walker in their finance department there says they aren't even touching a fraction of what it can do. So that leaves a lot of room for the future growth of this, which is super exciting. So I envision, and Kayla and I, in our discussions and dreaming and geeking out on financial things, phase 2, they have enterprise asset management, which will track all of our assets, which we'll have that ability already on the financial piece of the assets, but this might be able to help Rob and Sheriff Applehans to track those preventative maintenance schedules and things like that, or repairs, because we all know once something starts needing repairs, that's maybe time to kick that vehicle down the road. It might be able to get the inventory. So Rob, I know, has a lot of inventory that he provides a list to the auditors each year of culverts, cattle guards, things that he uses, cutting blades maybe, I don't know. Bid management, which we have that Quest CDN right now, so maybe we can get rid of that down the road. And then an ACFR statement builder. The ACFR is an annual comprehensive financial report. Those are the financial statements that it will kick out and we just hand to our auditors. And then our audit costs will go down because they are right now creating our financial statements because our software just won't do it.
And they'll have access to the system too.
Yeah.
They'll have a login.
Yes, which will make it easier. They should be able to maybe even just do the audit from
Wherever.
Utah and never see them,
Go down.
which is great.
Yes.
During audits, I'll have 5 stacked outside of my office, and that's all I do all day for about a week. In that package that was scanned in for the agenda, the conversion, it shows that implementation for the financial package would be in January of 2025 and human resources in April 2025. Those are probably more than likely to be pushed out just a little bit because we're already behind on our progress in doing these steps. Tyler Tech, they'll have people on site and they will work also remotely. It'll be a combination of both. They're going to convert our current financial data. We're only going to go back about 5 years just to have that most current history, because everything prior to that is not relevant anymore. And we don't want to clutter up our system with maybe junk data. They'll convert the payroll system for about that same time frame as well. Bamboo, all those things with the employee access that will get imported into this new Tyler Tech product. And the employees will have also a self-service, where we have that, we get your pay stub now. We'll have that still, that capability. With this project, we will.
See if I can interrupt.
Sure, absolutely.
Will bamboo still be being used, or will that be phased out?
It'll be phased out.
Okay.
Yep.
And then this still allows for HR growth as well?
Absolutely, yep. All the employees will have their own user. They'll have different capabilities or different needs within there. Rob's guys might be just pay stubs because I don't think they even look at those. Right. I believe I heard Cindy say she logged on. But they'll have different capabilities. I'll use the sheriff's office as an example. Rebecca does all his vouchers. She'll have the capability to probably enter those vouchers. The vouchers will then move on to Amanda, and Amanda will be the reviewer. And so there's going to be a lot of processes that are going to change. And during this process, this is what we're also going to work on writing an accounting manual because we just don't have enough to do, especially Kayla in a presidential election year.
Right.
We just want to do it all. No, but it makes sense because we're going to be changing our processes. So we might as well just be documenting it and making that manual as we go. With that will come a major change in our chart of accounts, which I I don't even know what that looks like quite yet, but it'll give us the ability to roll up maybe all the payroll costs for a department all the way up to the county as a whole. Separation between the grants, and things like that. One of the feature or the things about Tyler Tech is the stability of the company. They've been around forever. They only serve government. It's super exciting that it's going to integrate with our TaxWise, and we already have that capability, or will have that capability. It is initially it's quite an investment. It's $607,000, which includes implementation, and additional travel for their staff to come down here periodically is another $26,000. We did have this all budgeted in direct aid and included, but going forward, it'll be about $92,000 annually, which will have savings from not using Bucks, which is our accounting system, CHIPS is our payroll at Bamboo. We have a small program that we use in my office, Asset Keeper Pro, that tracks the financial values of all the assets for the county. And those costs will go away as we add additional things. For instance, going back to bid management, I guess Quest CDN doesn't cost us anything. They charge the customer. Correct. But some of those other costs we might be able to identify can disappear. I know David is gone, but he uses QuickBooks. The jail uses QuickBooks. Those items will go away too, because those are just hard to audit, having those offsite books like that as well. And with that, I hope I didn't geek out too much. I'm obviously very excited about this, but I'll answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Tracy.
Tracy, to your knowledge, do any other counties besides Laramie use this?
Sweetwater.
And a lot of other counties don't use the financial side of it, but almost all of the counties issue all of our titles through DocuPro, which is a Tyler company. We've used Tyler. We use it for all of our recording in our office. Tracy uses it, of course, for her TaxWise. So it'll all integrate, which is, I mean, you hate to put all your eggs in one basket, but they're a great company that can do so many different things. I know that there were other counties that were asking me as we were going through the ERP that they're looking at moving towards. I think counties are just growing, and we've outgrown like Tracy said, I mean, we've just outgrown our system, and we love our system. Don't get me wrong. It's been a great system.
It's super easy.
It's easy to work with, but we've completely outgrown it. And there's a lot of things that you can't change in it. And there's a lot of things that happened in the past that you can't change now that you're kind of have to live with, which that's why we're trying to look. Tracy and I are trying to do the look out 50 years. How do we want it to look in 50 years so that somebody else doesn't have to come into this position where we're at and go, we have to start all over. But it's kind of exciting at the same time to start over, because now we can learn from what we've done in the past and kind of move forward into the future. So,
Tracy, any IT security issues?
No, the data will be cloud-based. Tyler Technology has a rigorous security protocol that words I don't understand, but Adam has been involved in this and process along the way as well. So he's kind of given us his blessing. But just to follow up a little more, there are 17 county treasurers that use TaxWise for their property tax and motor vehicle collections. But of those 17 counties, I'm not sure. Tyler Tech also has like a smaller financial package module that's called Visions, I believe, and they use that. They're not doing the full-blown ERP system like we're
Fremont County uses that too.
Talked to David briefly yesterday, for instance. They have like a planning management that maybe he could use down the road too. That would help him with his zoning applications and those types of things as well. Something that our county can definitely grow with, and hopefully we can utilize it more than Laramie County. Yeah.
It's likely. Very likely, yeah.
Anything I can make easier, I'm going to try to make easier.
So I guess with the onboarding, there is going to need to be like managers of it. And so will everybody kind of manage their office, or will you, what's your thoughts about that, Tracy?
So, I mean, currently right now we have a limited number of people that can access the financial software for a couple of reasons. We have limited number of licenses. I think we have 4 licenses. With that, you know, when you constrict it like that, you get more control, you get more consistency in the data entry. When you start adding people, it kind of can get a little more convoluted, like somebody could enter, something just with a different description that makes it harder to find in the software. Because right now we can search by descriptions and certain things. So if somebody uses like power bill for road and bridge, or somebody else calls it electric bill for road and bridge, those are two different things in a computer search, obviously. But that's where this accounting manual is. This is where we're going to have standards that this is how we want it to look. And we were going to be working with training all of those people to do that. So far as going the project management, Kayla and I, we've are taking the lead on this because right now we're the ones that set up people in the current financial software. Of course, Adam is going to be involved, and then we'll have to meet with Rob and, you know, Aaron and everyone else as who do you want in your office to have access to and to what? Let's, you know, plan and figure out who's going to be entering the invoices and who's doing the payroll. Should be a timekeeping function in payroll too, where it'll make doing payroll for Amanda much easier. Because it'll be right there in that system. And it does have workflow processes in here. So for instance, Brianna in my office does her timesheet in there that'll workflow to me to approve, and then it'll workflow on into the payroll. So there's going to be a lot of these checks and balances within the software as well.
Will they bring a team on site for go live? Because I know when that transition happened, you thought you knew an electronic health record until the day you opened the door and said, let's do this. Yeah.
To kind of segue into what the future, we've been talking with Mike Monroe with Coa Hills. He's been very instrumental in helping us identify what our needs are, what our wants are, what we're capable of, and getting to the point where we are now. And he has submitted us a proposal for helping with the implementation process and facilitating a lot of the documentation processes. They are willing to create those how-tos for us in software. Of course, it comes at a price tag. We haven't really looked at that price tag yet. We're not quite there, but he has just done this for the city of Laramie because city of Laramie just adopted the same program. And they use a program called Skillo. I don't think Skillo is available anymore, but they create videos. So if you onboard a new accounts payable person, for instance, they can sit down and like, okay, I know I was shown that on day one. How do I enter this?
Yep.
They can go back and watch the video. There'll be other onboarding things that they can do. I think that with that content manager, it goes back to like what we're using Biz Library for. We might be able to phase out Biz Library and save those monies and apply them here. So I think we're going to have so many different options that it's going to be hard to narrow us down. Like, don't do it all at once. I mean,
yes,
even though we want it all at once.
Tracy, once it's up and running into the future, if we have any issues, and the support team is available, is that an additional cost?
There's a certain number of support hours, I believe, that come with it as just a package. There's packages over and above that also include, they have an annual conference called, I can't think of the name. They have an annual conference, but if you buy this.
Geeks United, I think.
Yeah, probably. Something, Number Nerds Unite, yeah.
I learned technology nerds.
It comes with I want to say tickets, but.
Well, and I think too, Tracy, I think everybody, so I don't know how you are with tax wise, but with DocuPro, we have people support already that we can call. If we have an issue, we have a person that we call. They usually can fix whatever issue we're having within a day. So I think that the same support, I mean, with the same company, of course, it's kind of branched off, but I think we get assigned a rep or a service person that we would then contact. And the beauty of it is being cloud-based too. And like Tracy said, Adam was involved in all of this. And I think even with our DocuPro right now, we're not cloud-based, but I think they're moving towards cloud-based on all of that, which Adam does not mind because then he doesn't have to keep all of our stuff on his servers because that takes up a lot of space, especially when you look at what we're storing in our DocuPro system.
Well, I don't think they would let us, either of the companies that offered a proposal to the county would let us be on-prem. Everybody's going away from on-prem. We would have had to have a heritage account with them to stay on-prem, and which we don't have anyway. So everything will be cloud-based, regardless of which company we had gone with.
And I think Adam keeps it one place and they keep it in, I don't know all the tech side of it, but Adam was on board with all of the tech side of it. He's not here to speak about it, but I know that he was on board. He was in all of the demos with us to make sure that we met all the technical specs. So I don't know if that answered your question or not, but I think we're assigned a rep or a person that is our person that if we have questions, that's who we go to. And I know a lot of the times when we have issues in DocuPro, we don't get charged for them. It's just there. That's our service rep that we go to, unless they have to physically change something for us. Then I think it's different. But other than that, we usually get pretty good service from them. So
that's one of the things with tax-wise. If it's a statutory change that we have to comply with, so that means all the counties, it's covered in our service agreement currently with tax-wise. But if it's something like Albany County just wants this, then we would be charged for that, for those kind of support things.
Yeah.
But I mean, it does come with the basic level of support. And then, like I said, you can get additional support, which includes additional training, and that, whatever that conference is.
I don't remember what it is
but,
either.
We haven't even, we want to get the implementation.
Okay.
Any other questions? I'd entertain a motion for 22 if there are none.
I move that we approve item 22 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That
Thank
motion
you.
carries. Thanks, Tracy. Thank you, Kayla. Thanks, everybody who's worked on that. 23, present for approval. The Albany County Sheriff's bid exception approval request for mental health treatment providers to provide mental health support in individual and or group therapy for participants in the Albany County Sheriff's Office Critical Incident Mental Health Support Program. Bailey, thank you.
So as you're probably aware, we've put this out for bid a few times. We were getting ready to go out one more time, and I reached out to the state and told them this isn't working. We're not getting any bites on this project. What are our other options? Or we may have to look at returning the funds. Well, they don't want us to return the funds because then they possibly have to return it back to the feds. So they looked into it on their end. They looked through all the state procurement that they needed to. They got back to us and gave us this bid exemption. Yeah, piece. And I had Jennifer look into it, and we're going to hopefully move forward with this. This would allow Aaron to choose whatever providers he would like, have his deputies go to those providers, and then them invoice us. And then there's another piece that we would then have to fill out with that first invoice from all the providers that would then just make everything okay.
So this is a general exception. So what we did is set up, so there's a general exception to accept us from the RFP process and having to go through that again with no bid. So this is the general exception that's in front of you. And then when there are providers that have invoiced sheriff, we would have an exception for that provider that we would then present to you as well, so that it would relate back to this exemption. So just to follow it all the way through for grant purposes and all of those things. So we've checked all the boxes so the feds don't come back and tell us you didn't follow your least restrictive and where's your proof of doing all of these other things. So since we've already published twice and it's been three.
I
think three.
And Sheriff, the issue has been that no providers want a steady contract. They want to be able to be more flexible.
Yeah, nobody's bid on it. For the third time, we changed the bid to where you could take a piece of the contract and not take the whole bid. The original grant was written to do that as well, where we would solicit multiple entities to help out with the program, and give the flexibility to the deputies to use essentially any provider that they wanted, so far as that they're licensed practice in the state of Wyoming on there as well. And so we wanted to give the greatest flexibility. The state signed off on that, but with the procurement requirements that that we in the state have in terms of getting out bids, it just didn't allow for any local entity, really any state entity, to want to jump on board with that. So like I said, it's a large contract. It's $186,000 over 3 years. So and like I said, we talked to a lot of people, had some interest there, but nobody actually put in a bid. I think this has been out to bid 3 times. So since either October or November of last year. So this exemption will allow us to not only be able to use the grant for what it was intended to, but give us the flexibility that was originally granted or written into the original proposal. So yeah, it's a good workaround.
Any other questions? Maybe or share comments? I'd entertain a motion for 23.
I move that we approve item 23 is presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
24, present for discussion and approval, quote from Cowboy Moving and Storage Inc. to relocate Guardian's ad litem's office from the basement of the annex to the second floor in the amount of $529.35.
So Tamara Candelaria is the guardian ad litem that's assigned to Albany County. Since we did the remediation and restoration efforts at the annex, something that was used in that process, she is apparently very allergic to. When she went back down to her office on 2 or 3 different occasions, she got really sick within about the first half hour, had to leave. And so when initially, and we didn't know that initially, we got an email that said, hey, I have found this other space that was like $300 a month. Is that something that we can bring in front of the commissioners? And so I responded and said, oh, I'm sorry. If we hadn't told you the remediation was complete, it was complete. Then we had a call and she said, the trouble is I'm getting really sick and I don't know what it is. I went back like 3 different times, weeks apart. It's still happening. And so I said, oh goodness. So what we asked her to do, instead of paying for a separate space, because she is also similar to the public defenders, where the county is required to provide suitable office space. We said, now that the public defenders are not upstairs, do you have any interest in trying upstairs to see? So she temporarily, I think she worked on her laptop in a chair up there with several different days, did not get sick at all. And so, what we would like to do, rather than having to pay for additional space for her, is pay to move her office, which consists of a lot of filing cabinets, as most attorneys do, from the basement up to the second floor. It is the office. If you've been up there, it's straight at the back. It is not accessible from the other 2, like there's the main reception area and an office that's all tied together. This is not, so that if somebody else were to go into that space or the other space that's just directly across the hall, it's a separate space that can be locked off. So that.
She's okay with that?
She is okay with that. She went up there, worked, she responded back, said that would be just fine. She was going to be here tomorrow, but she had court hearings that couldn't be. So if you had any questions for her, so our request would be, we got the 2 bids. Cowboy Movings was just slightly less. But in Cowboy Movings, it does say at the bottom, this is an estimate, but if you look at the top, it says that it's a fixed fee for the $500 in costs, and the rest is like boxes or something like that. So it comes in just less. We don't have the issue before where it was here's our guess, but we will adjust. So the request is to award that moving, or approve that moving estimate for Cowboy Moving, so she can reach out to them, get them to move her things upstairs and keep her in that annex building.
Jennifer, commissioners, any questions? Now to entertain a motion for 24, please.
I move that we provide him 24 as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Item 25, discuss grant application to Wyoming Energy Authority for their local government retrofit for replacement of lighting in the Albany County Courthouse. David.
So let's see, this application we applied for last year for detention center or courthouse. The state then chose the detention center for us because the savings was just better. I reached out to Patrick Millen at the state because I knew this was coming out. If we are eligible to apply again, they do not normally fund back-to-back years with entities. But because our application included both buildings last year, we got the audit on both buildings last year. He said it actually might be a good opportunity for us to apply this year. We would not have to apply for the audit piece because that audit piece is still, thank you. Pregnancy brain. It's almost done. So since it's valid, we don't need to apply for that piece. It's just the grant application, and this application is not due to the end of May. So I talked with Brady to make sure I wasn't putting too much on his plate, and he's fine submitting another one for it because we pretty much have all the information. It'll just getting some updated numbers from Anthony about what he's already replaced in the courthouse and what he hasn't. So I just want to see if you guys have an interest of this before we move forward. So
Very much so.
and it is a $50,000 grant, 10% match. So the match I would just put in my grant match funding.
Any questions for Bailey? Bailey, thank you for reaching out for that. That's fantastic. I'd entertain a motion for 25, or do we need nothing? Nothing, just discuss it. Okay, cool. Thank you.
And just to clarify, this is just for the courthouse building this year because we don't want to do the audit again.
Awesome. 26, present for concurrence, Albany County Board of Commissioners Resolution 2024-007, City of Laramie, Wyoming, Resolution 2024-22, resolution appointing one member to the Environmental Advisory Committee for the City of Laramie, Wyoming. This is to replace somebody who left because of changes to their work. And so it's Mr. Doyle, who's the resident. And Councilor Doherty and I did the interviews. That's what we were.
How many applicants did you get?
2. I'd entertain a motion for 26. There are no questions.
No questions. I move that we approve the appointment of Alan Doyle to the Environmental Advisory Committee for the City of Laramie, Wyoming. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. 27, request budget directive from the Board of County Commissioners for fiscal year 2024-2025, Albany County budget. Kayla, please.
Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm just here. So Tracy, Sunny, and Amanda and I met last week regarding the budget. And I just thought I would come forward and ask for your guys' directive. Once I get your directive, I will send a memo out to all the department heads and elected officials along with the budget calendar. We're gonna kind of follow how we did it last year, if you guys are okay with that. I think it's the first meeting in June. We thought we would meet in the afternoon, and then if you guys wanted to meet again after that, we could, but kind of per last year, we were able to wrap it up, I think, ahead of time, at least knowing once everybody submits their budget, you guys can then let us know if you want to meet with particular departments, and then we can set those up. I will let you know, March 26th, of course, is the community partner meeting over at the city. It starts at 5:30. Yep. And I'll send out a notice too, but if you want to throw that on your calendar, we kind of changed that up this year. Bailey and Brady have taken the lead on it. Really, those are grants in a way. I know they're 1% funds, but really these people have to be held accountable, and they have the means to track those funds. So they've been doing that. We did push it so that last year we didn't have any county only applications for 1% funds. We just had city county, you know how they do the joint. So we pushed up the county applications to the same time frame. There was really no point. We waited until the way end. So we pushed that time frame up. So if we have any applications, I think we were going to have them come at the April meeting. But as of right now, we don't have any county only ones. They're all city county. So we may not have any. But just I think that's really the only change we had there. But really just asking for your guys' directive so that I can do the memo and we can start moving budget amongst all the other fun things.
Commissioners, any changes you'd like to see from last year's process to
Very good.
staff? Any recommendations that you'd like us to consider?
More money for the treasurer's office.
Right.
Let's start plugging already, Tracy.
And then we had our department heads, elected officials meeting yesterday, and the thought was, can we start thinking in addition to budget, personnel and offices, and so that we have a strategy going forward. If Rob is really short of a person, he would say this would be immediate need, and then Tracy needed somebody in the next couple of years, so that we have an idea of what positions might come in certain years. And so if we have extra money, that we would have that conversation. It's totally not necessary for the budget, obviously, but just to get people's takes so we have a little bit better handle on those issues that are really impacting the work of department heads and elected officials.
I think one of the things that will be a big factor in your considerations of the budget will be what property tax bills actually pass.
Yeah.
Which we should know by Friday.
Yeah.
Unless they kick those to a special session like they talked about. But I don't know. If they
Hopefully
do.
not.
Yeah, hopefully they don't have a special session.
Yeah. Dancing with a lot of money there, it seems, is what I was reading last night. It's really scary, some of them.
One of the big changes is the property tax refund program, because it also changes the county program. So we'll have to change our rules to match what statute will be going forward, because it has, instead of the 6 tiers they originally started with, it has 3 right now. But it could potentially
go back to 6. One never knows.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Really harder to administer. The tiers already are gonna be messy, but we can do it. So Brianna's an Excel genius.
He's a wizard.
Yeah.
Kaylin, Tracy, do you have what you need for that item?
Would you guys like to see everybody come with a flatline budget? Do you want the same? So I guess so do you want people to come with a flatline budget? And then if they have any additional, of course, do the explanation just like we have always asked in the past. What about, are you guys looking at anything with employee raises in anything like that? Just so I can have that on my, or if you guys just want to think about that, I guess that's usually something that Amanda does on the periphery. She does it over here.
Yeah.
If you'd like me to look at something like that, of course, I can have Amanda do those numbers. She's got a spreadsheet, so she can do that kind of stuff, but I don't know if you guys want me to look at any of that, if you want me to let people know just to come with flatline. And then we talked yesterday about, with the new ERP, about changing. I'm looking at the share. I was looking for the share because we were talking about that, I think just the biggest thing with budget is that you spend your line items to represent what you're actually spending. Don't pay for meals out of your office supplies, because it's not a representation of how you spend your money. Your budget should reflect what the line item is. And if you need additional line items, let Tracy and I know so that we can do that. That's not a problem to add a line item. If you have something in your budget, or if you want to combine two, it's fine to do that too. I don't know if we want to do a ton of that this year, because we will be cleaning those up, of course, when we do our new chart, which is really exciting. But it's one of those things. I know I had to add that in there, right?
You got that right.
But just, I think it's really important for department heads and elected officials to know too, that when you're spending money out of your budget, it needs to be reflective of what your actual line item is. And you can overspend that line item as long as your bottom line is, because then we're going to know a true representation. If you overspent your line item this year, you might think, okay, I need to up this because of X, Y, and Z or whatever. I think it's been really helpful. We haven't even gone through all of the paper that we ordered from last year. So that's really exciting. I don't know if we're just being really frugal with paper, or maybe we're all printing less. But I think that that's helped out a lot. But other than that, I don't really have anything other than if you guys have a specific directive that you would like me to put in the memo.
Would you be all right with the same ones that we did last year? And then we could have Amanda look, I think it was 1 and 2 and 3.
1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. No guarantee that we'll do anything.
And it's all going to be dependent upon the money that we get in too. So, okay, all right.
A lot easier to do it ahead of time.
And that's kind of the thing. I mean, as long as she's got it ready and then it's ready to go. Okay, thank you.
And then down to 27A, discussion and approval of resolution 2024, and what is the number?
-008.
008.
I think we just needed
Yep, I need
to,
a motion in a second.
I move that we approve resolution 2024-008, a resolution initiating proceedings to vacate the north 6 feet of First Street along the south boundary of block 55 of the Centennial Plat. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Item 28, executive session pursuant to Wyoming State Statute 16-4-405, A, Romanet 3 and Romanet 7. Entertain that motion.
I move that we move from regular session into executive session pursuant to Wyoming Statute 16-4-405, A, III, and 7. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Leaving.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Leaving regular session, entering executive session at 12:08, 5th of March. And So item 30 is return to regular session. I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we return to regular session at 12:25. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Leaving executive session, returning to regular session. 31, action if needed regarding executive session. I don't believe there is any action. 32, approve vouchers for February 2024. I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we approve vouchers for February 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Item 33 is adjourn. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn at 12:25.
Moved and seconded. Any further